1975's Jaws and 1994's Jurassic Park from Steven Spielberg and 1979's Alien from Ridley Scott certainly formed the archetypal structure for modern creature features. In fact, Jaws, Alien, and John Carpenter's The Thing are considered the holy trinity of archetypes that shaped modern horror creature features. Jaws gave us the nature archetype, where it was when nature runs amok, giving us memorable films like Alejandro Aja's The Shallows and Crawl. Alien is the classic isolation archetype, where it is a slasher in a confined setting structure, usually in space, as we see movies like Paul W.S. Anderson's Event Horizon and David Twohy's Pitch Black. Paranoia archetype is what The Thing gave us as a group of characters, usually in a confined location like that in Alien, yet instead of being seeded off one by one, it was the paranoia of who had been assimilated by the entity. Examples of such archetype include Frank Darabont's The Mist and James Gunn's Slither. As for Jurassic Park, we have the hubris of the humankind thinking that they could alter nature, therefore bringing misfortunes they duly deserved. In today's review, we have 3 creature features released in 2026. Let's see which archetypes these movies fall into. Kraken is a Norwegian horror thriller directed by Paul Oye, with a screenplay written by Vilt Ike, Kirsty Helen Rasmussen, and Natasha Arthur. Like the opening in Jaws, we have unsuspecting victims, in this case a pair of tourists immersing in a joyride on the jet ski in an unnamed Norwegian fjord, not realizing that the danger came within the dark abyss of the water below. Our protagonist Joanne, a marine researcher, was summoned to investigate a series of disturbances and strange ecosystem behaviors. Though not exactly the reason for the demise of the tourists, but certainly a connection with the activities of a fish farm which was breeding high-quality salmon. The fish farm was a development of Aboutness, whose daughter Joanne used to babysit. Therefore, she had established a close relationship with the person she's investigating. To compound the difficulties in upholding her professionalism into aspect, the head of research of the salmon lice program on the farming rig was Eric, her ex-boyfriend who she still had feelings for. The investigation occurred concurrently when Aboutness was trying to sell the salmon lice program to a big Japanese conglomeration. The investigation was discreet and the negotiation went well for the fish farm, yet the things were unraveling in the background as fishes become erratic and more accidents within the waters of the fjord. Aboutness' daughter, Maria, was in cahoots with 2 men using the boat her parents bought for her to sabotage her father's own farm as part of a mission under the guise of eco-terrorists. As the titular Kraken was slowly emerging from the depth of the water after leaving a trail of carcasses of its victims, unbeknownst to Eric, Aboutness had instructed the controller of the rig to tweak the contraption to hasten the desired results, something Joanne would find out, which was also culpable for disturbing the sleeping behemoth. The plot certainly patterned itself after Jurassic Park, and director Oe had previously made The Tunnel, a disaster thriller which was a remake of Sylvester Stallone's Daylight. Therefore, he had a grasp of making this kind of movie which embroidered an ensemble of characters in the most tumultuous of situations. We have Joanne, the expert in the field, who assumed the heroine of the story. We have Eric, the unsuspecting custodian of the technology which started with the intention to benefit mankind and had zero tolerance towards any unscrupulous ways to imbalance the way of the nature for monetary benefits. We have Aboutness, the greedy businessman who seek wealth with little regards to anything else. And we have Maria, the next generation who do not want their world to be destroyed by the greed of their predecessors. Like in Jurassic Park, the science behind the technology sounded believable, but whether a 15-foot tall octopus was living deep within a Norwegian lake being realistic was as much as asking you to believe in bringing dinosaurs back to life. With the climatic showdown happening in the confined space of the rig, floating in the dark, foggy fjord, Oye was able to blitz the visuals with something refreshing. The various sights and sounds in the rig successfully escalated the tensions when Joanne and the rest were in the precipice of an attack by a Kraken. It also rekindled my memories of the 2015 movie The Wave from another talented Norwegian filmmaker, Roald Uttan. The computer-generated Kraken with its threatening tentacles, and those suckers which felt like sensors for the creature to fill its prospective victims in order to wrap around and smolder tightly. It was certainly unsettling seeing tentacles working their way through passageways of the rig, cornering the human victims. Oye also made use of the scientific phenomena like the bioluminescence and the oversized skin-crawling parasites that resided in the deeper strata of the ocean bed, usually attaching the bigger sea creatures, in this case the Kraken, therefore not something you want to encounter on the land. Actress Sarah Corrami assumed the role of Joanne's, and she was not your classical lead actress at any measure. For 2/3 of the movie, she felt awkward since the character was constantly caught between her profession and the close relationships with the supposed offenders. Her character came to life when she tried to save the same people she had conflicts with, while marveling at an organism she was working her whole life to uncover. Mikael Brad Silset played the stoic love interest Eric, who for one instance I thought he might be employed as a paper salesman in Slough. Kraken was a labour of love for director Paul Oye and his team, and it shows. At a limited budget of 4 million euros, he managed to create a solid creature feature with a real rollercoaster ride. He patterned after Hollywood blockbuster style of filmmaking, but had a strong feel of their own culture and even managed to tug on my heartstrings. I don't think I will ever watch another movie with a man in business suit riding on jet ski with strong vindication. Kraken is a 7.5 out of 10 for the first movie review today. The Yeti is a movie based on the threat of the elusive cryptid for first-time filmmakers Gene Gallerano and William Pisciotta, who wrote the screenplay as well. Set in the post-World War II America, we have a prologue when we see a group of oil prospectors surviving the bitter cold of Alaska, but faced with something more ominous with the scary guttural roars echoing through the Alaskan wilderness. Before they knew it, the Yeti would come for their blood for trying to disturb the peace and tranquility of its home. The group was led by oil tycoon Merrill Sunday Sr., who was missing after his team had been massacred in their base, leading to his son to assemble a team for a search and rescue mission, comprising of an explosive expert, a communication guy, a doctor, a war veteran who survived 2 world wars, and completed with the recruitment of Ellie Bannister, a topography expert. The expedition meant more than just a hefty payday for Alice. Her father Hollis was the one who led Sunday's senior oil prospecting group and similarly was missing in action. It was never going to be an easy mission for Sunday's junior team, and in familiar fashion, they will be picked out one by one. Therefore, we have a classic alien-style slasher, this time round in the Alaskan wilderness, with the feral Yeti slowly baiting his victims with a signature tapping sound to precede its appearance, very much like his own Mike Myers score. It was apparent the entire movie was shot in a soundstage, which was a rare style of filmmaking these days. The intricacy Gallerano and Pisciotta put in to create the time period was admirable, and filming it on a soundstage might not be the worst idea, since there was no intention to make it as cinematic as, let's say, The Revenant. I really enjoyed the introduction of Sunday's junior team in the 1940s style of media presentation, like those golden age superheroes we have read in The Watchmen. The only issue I had was that the film could be better lit, yet it felt like a concerted effort to not show much of the Yeti until the very end. There were also echoes of The Thing, with a group of people caught in a snowstorm trying to figure out when and where the imminent threat was going to appear in front of them. Squabblings ensued, and seeds of doubt reasoned among this bunch of strangers. But it was far from the paranoia archetype we were talking about. The design of the Yeti was not too different from how we grew up recognizing cryptids like Bigfoot and Sasquatch, but the skin-piercing claws and those bone-crunching jaws were a choice to intensify its threat. We were informed the real reason behind the Yeti attacks was because of a trope-like plot element, which we will also see in the next movie I'm reviewing, and the main culprit was Ellie's missing father, who was portrayed by the well-celebrated character actor William Sadler. The movie also managed to cast Corbin Benson as Merrill Sunday Sr., and with the 2 cross swords on screen, he definitely dwarfed the collective performance from the younger cast. Beside the constant hesitance and reluctance from Alice, and abrasive nature of Sunday Jr., the character I really liked was the war veteran Coates, who was shown constantly wearing a mask to cover that side of his face that has been disfigured during war. He was the no-nonsense one-man security sentry, but he had a heart-wrenching story, leading him to develop such a rapport with other members of the team as well. If you enjoy a type of old Hollywood style of creature horror with a dash of modern film techniques, The Yeti is a film for you, and it was competently made with eye-catching cameos from a couple of notable actors. I'm awarding The Yeti 6 out of 10. Our final film is Hungry from British writer-director James Nunn, a survival horror feature which was like Jungle Cruise in a bayou, where you should fear something more than just an alligator. Lindsay Lohan lookalike Madison Davenport played Sistine, who was in the middle of a vacation in New Orleans with her friend Hannah. From the onset, we realized that she thought she had sought approval from her employers for vacation, but turned out she was not, and therefore losing her job. This compounded with some family issue that made Madison not able to fully immerse in the fun which Hannah had planned, including a boat ride into the bayou to admire the characteristic flora and fauna. With their seasoned tour guide and riverboat captain Rodrigo bringing them into the swamplands, the small group of tourists were in high spirits on their cruise. Things were hunky-dory and was going according to plan until Rodrigo was paid to bring them into a restricted area to see a huge alligator by the name of Big Ben. But when the group saw the carcass of Big Ben, which was a sight to be behold, they realized that they had made a very bad choice. Soon, their feeble riverboat would capsize, and one by one, the characters were going to fight for their survival for the real horror in the bayou, which are rogue hippopotamuses. This was a classic nature archetype when man entered natural environment and animals became territorial or felt that mankind was a nice alternative from their usual dietary choices. There was a scene with Sistine staring straight in the eyes of a feral hippo on the deck of the boat, which I felt was homage to the scene when Queen was struggling not to be eaten by the shark in Jaws. As a memorable movie of such subgenre, it was always down to the dynamics of your cast of characters and the cascade of dumb decisions they made. There were not so many dumb decisions in this feature that I could remember. Him, the young boy who went on the ride with his mother and grandfather, put that hand struggling in the water as if he had been savaged by something trick to scare his mother, which naturally becomes the boy who cried wolf trope. Surprisingly, it did not turn out as anticipated. The only unlikable character was Dion, the businesswoman who was the instigator of the whole tragic event. She did not do anything or say anything that really made one bloods boil. In fact, she brought up some notable points about the cruise itself. I thought the friend Hannah would be the problematic character whose mistakes Sistine had to keep correcting, yet she was not what I expected as well. Without the slew of characters you were hoping so bad to be killed in the most gruesome manner, we just have the stealth and speedy hippopotamus unleashing their strength and brutality, something we were taught on those nature documentaries that they were more dangerous than alligators themselves. I like the fact that director Nunn incorporated the American Hippo Bill Act of the 1910, which was delved into the plot. The idea of introducing hippos from Africa to naturally devour the water hyacinths that were clogging up the waterways, as well as serving as a meat alternative during a beef shortage at that time, was approved by President Theodore Roosevelt, but ultimately did not get a single vote in Congress. Therefore, in the movie Hungry, it made use of an alternative reality when hippopotamus was successfully introduced into the Louisiana swamplands. The title was also a take of the toy from Milton Bradley called Hungry Hungry Hippo, introduced in the year 1978. I had played before in my childhood and was sure many children of my age did back then too. As mentioned, the resolution of the hippo attack was using the same trope of the creature's insatiable need to protect something, which was disrupted by the actions of mankind. With the running theme of a strong female protagonist, we have Sistine here making wise decisions which felt risky to do so at that moment. Director James Nunn was not to be mistaken for DC Extended Universe honcho James Gunn, although I would not be surprised if Gunn would make a movie like this, perhaps with way more gore and more underappreciated 1980s songs. Director Nunn was known for the action thrillers like One Shot featuring Scott Adkins. Hungry felt like taking the template of a survival horror with wild animals, the like of Jaws and Anaconda, but the movie was deprived of characters that you just love to loathe, and the set piece for the animal attacks was nothing impactful, with gore level kept to the acceptable level for general audience viewing. I like the background story of the American Hippo Bill, which gives us a what-if situation if Hippo was indeed introduced to the Louisiana swamplands. I was certainly not hungry for Hungry, so it is a 6.5 out of 10 for me. So which are the creature features in recent years that caught your attention? Would either of these 3 movies be on your watch list? Do share it with me in the comments below. Please help me by sharing this review to any friends who love horror movies, and if possible, subscribe to the channel. I wonder if the main characters from Damien McCarthy's Hokum and Mark Fishbach's Iron Lung will be in better situations encountering the creatures we highlighted today, or stuck in the same never-ending hellscape they are facing in their movies. Impending dangers in Alaskan wilderness, Norwegian fjords, or Louisiana bayou may prove to be the next selling point for some unconventional tour packages.